Hello there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I did a video a while back. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons a long time, over 40 years. I've been running it since 1979. I play Advanced Dungeons and Dragons because I like the flavor, the simplicity. I think it's a better game, in my opinion. I've played 3.5. My son just recently got the 5th edition stuff, so we're going to work on that. But I've never played it before, so I can't say anything about that. 3.5 is fun to play, but it's too complex for me to run. My mind won't wrap around it. I guess I'm just a simpleton. My contention is my son runs it well, and we enjoy playing in his game. Matter of fact, we're going to play tomorrow night. The other day we had a total party kill. Anyway. Okay. I'm doing videos for younger dungeon masters, and this is for players and dungeon masters who want to play, but they're not sure. They're inexperienced. They haven't been playing as long. They're not sure how to do stuff. So the main thing I can tell you is read the books. There's good sections in the Dungeon Master's Guide and in the Player's Handbooks, especially in the back regarding encumbrance, movement, that kind of thing. Over the course of my gaming career, like I said, over 40 years, I have learned that there are some rules that do not need to be employed. Here's one rule that has stymied players for decades. As long as I've been playing, players have asked questions about this, and nobody's ever happy with it. So here's my solution to the problem. According to the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide, page 40, it requires between 4 and 12 hours of sleep, depending on the spell level capability of the caster, for a spellcaster to revitalize his mind enough to memorize, pray for, or meditate for spells for the day. So the way it works is you have I'll use a wizard. For a cleric, it's a little different. But the time aspect is the same. For a wizard, you have a spell book, and in the morning you memorize your spells. For a cleric, you pray for whatever spells you want. For a druid, meditates. An illusionist has a spell book and memorizes his spells. You have to, it takes preparation to do this. And you have to have a rested mind, revitalized, able to absorb this knowledge and power in order to cast these spells. According to the book, depending on the spell level that you want to memorize, it takes between 4 and 12 hours of sleep to do this. Okay, the 9th level magic user spell, for example, requires 12 hours of sleep, according to the book. Furthermore, memorizing, praying for, or meditating for spells for the day, no matter what class you are, requires a quarter hour, that's 15 minutes, per spell, per level, to acquire spells for the day. Once you get into the higher level stuff, this becomes a nightmare. Let me explain. I'll give you an example. You have an 18th level magic user, and he must sleep for at least 12 hours because he's got 9th level spells. At least one, I think. And then spend, according to the book, if he has no spells memorized, he has to spend 34 and 3/4 hours memorizing spells. If I've done my math correctly. Because he's got a lot of damn spells to memorize. This will allow him to memorize his full allotment of spells for the day. So he slept for 12 hours, and then he's memorizing and reading and studying for 34, almost 35 hours. Let me make sure Yep, that's 34 and 3/4 hours. I just did the math again to double check myself. Be bad to put a video and put out bad info. Okay, 34 and 3/4 hours to memorize all of his spells. Now, even if he only has to memorize the spell slots he used from the previous day, the time spent could be enormous. 5 first level spells would require 1.25 hours. 5 second level spells would require 2.5 hours. 5 third level spells would require 3 3/4 hours, etc. 1 single 5th level spell would require 1.25 hours. You see what I'm saying? It's insane. 1 single 9th level spell would require 2 hours and 15 minutes. it's insane. I mean, well, I've memorized my stuff. I'll be ready to go adventuring tomorrow, maybe the next day. That kind of thing. All that added up makes people not want to run wizards, and I can understand that. So here's what I do. Every spellcaster, regardless of level, requires 8 hours of sleep. Period. So, if they're going to stand guard, they have to stand their guard first, their shift first, and then sleep for the 8 hours so they can get up and do their thing, or wait until after they get up and memorize their spells and then stand guard, kind of thing. However you want to do it in your game, however your players want to do it, it's up to you. But 8 hours of sleep. Then they'd have to take 15 minutes to memorize their spells. I know that's kind of a chintzy way to do it, and it doesn't take into account the complexity of some of the larger spells. But if you go by the book, it's getting a good night's sleep and then memorizing spells is a two-day ordeal. It's ridiculous. So, at some point you'll have to sleep again. That kind of thing. So that's how I do it. They have to get 8 hours of sleep, and it takes 15 minutes to memorize spells. Memorize or pray for spells or whatever. That's the way I do it. Another rule that really irritates me, and this isn't a rule per se, but you'll find a lot of these in, there was one in, I want to say it was Dragon Magazine. It was a critical hit and fumble chart. Good hits and bad misses, I think it was called. And it's a great article, and what it does is it gives crit and fumble charts. A fumble is when you roll a 1, really bad, I rolled a 1, I fumbled, oh no, what happens? And then you roll on the chart and find out what happened. And it's fun. I enjoy those. Conversely, when you roll a natural 20, that's a critical strike or a crit, and you do really good, and you roll on the other chart. And it gave a good idea of how a critical and fumble chart should be. I do my own, and there's a reason. I designed my own critical hit and fumble charts, and the reason being was on the good hits and bad misses, there's a section where you drop your weapon and it breaks. And there's a percentage chance of the weapon breaking based on if it's a magical weapon, it has certain pluses, and for every plus of the weapon, you get to subtract X amount from it, from the chance for it to break. And that's just asinine. I understand if you drop an arrow and it lands wrong, it's a wooden shaft, a thin wooden shaft. If it breaks, it's iffy. It's so light, it'll probably bounce rather than break. But you see my point. A wooden spear, you can throw that on the ground, it's not going to break. Even the shaft is made of wood, it's thick wood, you throw it on the ground. A javelin, maybe I could see breaking. Use a little common sense there. But if you've got somebody who forged a magic sword, the chances of you dropping it and breaking it are pretty pointless. I mean, it's minuscule. It's non-existent. If you drop a normal sword on the ground and it breaks, you want to go get your money back, because whoever forged it did a shitty job. That's all I'm saying. If you drop it off a cliff and it falls for a mile and then hits a rock and breaks or bends or whatever, then I could see. But just dropping it on the ground, no, that's stupid. It's not going to break. I do my own because stuff like that was in the chart, and it didn't make any sense. So if you drop a sword and it breaks, there's something wrong with the sword. You need to get your money back. Even if it's magical, especially if it's magical. That being said, there are some rules that I don't use in the game, and there are some rules that players usually don't want me to use, but I insist on. Had a player a while back who insisted that, actually it was a group of players, they wanted everything by the book. I did a video on this. They wanted everything by the book, and by the book includes spell components. Oh yeah, where to use those too? Okay, great. So I did. And when they couldn't get up the wall, and the magic users looking around trying to find a live spider to eat for the spell spider climb, yeah, it got pretty funny. so just be careful what you ask for, because sometimes you get it. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.